Guys, Riley here with Hotson Motors today, checking out our 1987 Jeep Comanche. Let's take a look today at this amazing old truck that we've got for you guys. This is our current giveaway truck if you are watching this video before March 26. If you're watching this video after March 26, 2023, we'll be giving away something else that's cool. So check us out, hotsonmotors.com, or here on our YouTube or on our Instagram. You'll see what else we're giving away. We're always doing something cool. So this is our current giveaway that you could win by participating in the giveaway on hotsonmotors.com. So today, in today's video, we just want to go around this truck, show you all the things that we've done to it, just kind of pick it apart piece by piece, show you all the good stuff that's on it that you could be taking home in this bad truck. So 1987 Jeep Comanche, commonly referred to as the MJ, is basically a Jeep Cherokee XJ, which is the common denomination for Cherokees, in a pickup truck form. So Cherokee XJs and Comanche MJs are basically the same trucks. A lot of the same power plants and parts are all accessible and swapped between them. These trucks went for a very long time, from 1986 all the way up to like 2001 or 2002. So they spanned a really long time in Jeep's lineup. And so there's a lot of them out there, a lot of parts that you can find for them. And there's a lot of stuff that's been reproduced. So they're a great classic truck to own. This being an 80s Jeep, we have the retro 80s grille. A lot of the grills changed a lot over the years, and as you got into the late 90s, early 2000s, the grills did get, and I will just admit it right here on video, the grills got more attractive, a better design. However, this design is very classic and looks cool on a classic truck. Being that this truck's from 87, the truck is very old, and I would absolutely consider it a classic now. It has a lot of cool classic proportions and a lot of things that, in my mind, make things a classic pickup. So truck's very cool, very classic, and that grill is very retro. So we've kept all of our chrome trim. We didn't go blacking anything out on this giveaway. Wanted to keep it very classic 80s vibe here. So we kept all the chrome and all the stainless and polished aluminum, all that good stuff in here. First of all, the first thing you're gonna notice is the off-white paint job. This is the factory color that it came in. However, it was resprayed once, but it's just in great shape. The paint job is very nice. We color sanded and polished it, so there's no orange peel. It's really a clean, very slick paint job, and absolutely perfect for like a daily driver as well. I think this truck is going to make for somebody a great daily little pickup where you can run around town. It's a long bed, so you'll be able to haul a bunch of stuff in it. It's a really cool truck, and it does great off-road. It soaks up bumps great. So this is really a do-it-all kind of truck. But let's focus in here a little bit more on our grill. So we've got these LED headlights. We put these on all of our trucks. We sell them on our website. They're a great headlight. They're stupid bright, and they really make for nighttime driving absolutely possible. We've got a lot of new parts on the front end as well, like new corner lights, new bezels, new blinkers, all that kind of stuff. Up here in the aftermarket light department, we've got some hella 4x6 LED driving lights, fog lights you might say, that are bolted down here to the bumper. It's a very classic look, very 80s. They're a very good light. We kind of debated back and forth about what we wanted to do, and we didn't want to go drop like $600 on some ridiculously expensive like KCs or anything like that, but these were a really good light. I really do recommend these lights if you want to build a truck and you want rectangular LEDs. This is a good quality light, comes with a really good quality wiring harness as well. For the price, they're really good. They're not cheap. They're not like cheap $20 Amazon lights, but they're very high quality and super bright. In the bumper department here, we've got our factory bumper. On our Instagram, we had put out a poll, bought an aftermarket winch bumper, plate bumper for this, because it's a Jeep. It has to have a winch so it can do Jeep things. So we put this poll out on Instagram, and we asked the people, like, okay, do you want a winch bumper or not? And people said they wanted a winch bumper. When it was time to get down to it, all aftermarket bumpers require you to cut the fender at where the bumper, the bottom of this grill lines up. So you have to cut the fender flare in order for any of these aftermarket bumpers to be able to fit. And so our truck has uncut fenders. It's very classic, has a lot of classic vibes with the stripes and the roll cage and everything else. So it was really hard for us. We put this out for a vote, and the people said, no, don't cut those fenders. You should try and hide the winch behind the factory bumper. And so that's exactly what we did. Behind this bumper, we have a heavy 1/4-inch steel plate that cradles the winch underneath there and is right underneath the core support, actually strengthening the frame as well. Super nice. It was a labor of love to change our mind. We already had the bumper, but we wanted this truck to look right, and I am absolutely stoked on how this came out and how it works. This is a synthetic rope winch, 9,500 pound winch. Super nice, worked out great. You've got 3 modes of operation. You've got your standard wired remote, you've got a wireless remote, and then we put a switch on the dash so that if you're out jeeping or off-roading, you can winch up to a tree or whatever and stay inside your truck and steer and run your winch at the same time. So we really love that. We're really stoked about it, but I do love this factory bumper. I love that it ties into the factory fender flares. You've got your chin spoiler down below as well, so the chin spoiler continues over, and then you've got these wicked cool bumper guards, which I think are a very, very classic look that you see on a lot of these old trucks, especially like old Fords had them a ton, those stainless steel bumper guards that kind of look like walrus teeth, you know, saber-toothed tiger teeth. I think the bumper guards are cool and they make the truck look very, very, very classic. All right, so let's move down the side and keep talking about other good things here. Love the factory fender flares, and the reason why I like the factory fender flares is we didn't have to jack this truck up too high. This is about a 4-inch lift in the front, 2-inch lift in the rear, so that we can clear our 31-inch Milestar Patagonia XTs. Great tire, very quiet, very good off-road and on-road tire. These are wrapped around the 16-inch factory wagon wheels. It's a great classic look. I love the wagon wheels with the hubcaps and everything, so that looks killer. And then the fender flares, when you keep the stock fender flares, they're filled up quite well by a 31. And I think a lot of times you see XJs or MJs, Cherokees or Comanches that have bigger fender flares or they have cut fender flares. And so a 31 would normally look tiny, but under this truck, the proportions are absolutely right. So we love that. We love the setup. They fit perfectly. Coming down the side, we've got new Comanche emblems, and then we have new mirrors here, new door mirrors, which again are very classic, make this look like a classic truck. So we've got the fold out tow mirrors as well. These are new. And then on to one of my favorite things, one of the things we did at the shop that I love is the vinyl stripe kit. So we got this vinyl stripe kit from Phoenix Graphics, and it totally changed the look of the truck. When we were putting it together first, it was off-white with just black trim and chrome trim. It was very bland, the truck was, and we were like, man, you know, the truck's kind of boring. As soon as we slapped these stripes down the side, I was like, no, I love this truck. It's so sweet. So really nice, high quality vinyl stripe kit that goes all the way down the long bed and is absolutely beautiful. I love it. Changed the look of the truck. And then it made me glad that the truck was this off-white because it all pops and fits together really well. In the bed, we have a factory Jeep roll bar. This is a factory roll cage bolted down to the floor of the bed with 1/4-inch plates beneath it. So this isn't going to rip through the bed floor or anything like that. We didn't opt to go with lights on the top of the roll cage, even though there are mounts for lights. I think it makes cars look like Mickey Mouse. Literally, when you put round or square headlights up there, it looks like mouse ears. Not a fan of it. However, if the winner wants it, I absolutely will put some lights up there for you if that's your flavor. Just wasn't my flavor. Keep coming down the side here. You'll see this big old 8-foot bed is a painted bed, and we opted to not put bed liner in there because the paint was nice. There's a little bit of flash rusting coming through the bed. You know, if whoever wins, if they want bed liner in it, they can. But I think a painted bed, when it looks right, looks really nice like this and makes the truck just look a little bit more showpiecey, a little bit less shitboxy and more mint boxy. Come around here to the back side and talk about back up in here for a minute. So in the taillight department, we have factory taillights. These are actually really hard to find. Factory taillights, like on eBay, go for like $300. They're insane. And then one company reproduces just the lenses for $250. So it's like, you know what, let's polish these up, keep our factory lights, even though they have a little bit of cracking and chipping, it was worth it to keep the factory lights and just polish them up and make them look nice. Got our Jeep tailgate with the matching colors in the tailgate, and then we have our plate bumper in the rear. And so we had matching plate bumpers front and rear, and that's when we decided to not cut the front fenders. But the bumper that we had for this truck was like one of those Westin automotive eBay bumpers, like the step bumper, super cheap, flimsy, just looked terrible. And so we're like, let's still do the plate bumper. So this bumper's super nice, 3/16 bumper. Got this from JCR Off-Road. It was a DIY weld-it-yourself kit. Has a 2-inch receiver in the bumper as well. And this is bolted to the frame, and so it's super heavy duty and sturdy. You can haul a little trailer with this guy and be totally confident. So that's really nice, and we really like the way that the bumper turned out, especially how it wraps around the bed sides like that too. It offers a little bit of protection, which is nice. It ain't a Jeep unless you're talking about some suspension. So let's go up here and take a look. So in the axle department on this truck, we have a Dana 30 front axle. This truck would have had a center disconnect, which we deleted. So this is just now a Dana 30 without that weak point of the center disconnect. In the rear, this would have had a Dana 35, but it was swapped out for a Chrysler 8 1/4. So it's got a good rear axle, a good front axle now. In the suspension department, we did a ton of work to this, and it really does ride great. It steers super well, which I'm really happy about. So we're doing a long arm 3-link kit is what it's called, from a company called Iron Rock Off-Road. A lot of companies make these long arm kits, but these Jeeps came with essentially 3-link or 4-link suspension in the front, but they were short armed. And so, you know, you had a lot of movement out of those short arms. And so with the long arm kit, it really does change the way that these cars handle and drive and steer, makes them night and day way better. And they'll off-road better, they'll steer on the road better, everything's better about it. And I can tell you, after we put it on and we took it for that first drive with the suspension, it was like night and day, so great with that 3-link kit. So really nice long arm kit. In the steering department, we've got 1-ton steering. So this is 1.5-inch Dom tubing steering. Actually from, and some people might tease me, this is from Rough Country. And people say, man, you put Rough Country parts on this truck? Hear me out for a second. Most of these 1-ton steering kits come with Heim joints. And Heim joints are great for off-road. and they're very strong, but they kind of suck to drive on road. They're far squirrelier than standard, you know, tie rod end or ball joint end fittings for your steering. So like the tie rod end steering that's on this 1.5-inch Dom tubing is why I ended up buying it in the first place. Dom tubing's Dom tubing in all reality. Again, it was black and it had the tie rod ends on it rather than Heim joints, and it was like, let's do that instead, and it steers so good, super tight steering, really is really easy to drive. The steering's perfect. I love it. So that's that on steering and suspension. It's got a steering stabilizer under there as well, and then for shocks, we've got Bilstein 5100 shocks front and rear, so it really does ride super good. As far as everything else with the steering and suspension, we've got our sway bar that we've got extended sway bar links, extended brake lines that we did. We did custom brake lines and fuel lines because of the 3-link kit. As it travels up and down, we didn't want to crush the lines in their factory position, so we changed all that routing as well, so it's nice and safe inside the frame. We moved our sway bar so that it didn't bonk once it was lifted, and so that we did. So we did a lot of the work in order to make this right, so that whoever wins this truck doesn't have those issues in the future. So a lot of that is work that goes unseen, but I wanted to mention it anyway because, again, it's going to make the truck better for whoever wins, and however that goes. So let's pop the hood now and show you what's under there. All right, so under the hood here, this is an area we spent a ton of time. And now at first glance, you're gonna say under the hood of an XJ or an MJ is pretty ugly, and I would say you're right. But under the hood, we've got a 4.0 fully rebuilt engine. This is probably the best option that you could have gotten for Jeep. One of the most reliable engines you will ever own is a Jeep 4.0. They make decent enough power, around 200 horsepower. Good enough for a little truck like this where it scoots down the road perfectly happy. But we rebuilt this engine ourselves, everything except for the machine work. Took the block to go get honed, did all the machine work, and had a machine shop do the valve job. But we rebuilt this engine ourselves at the shop, and I'm really proud of it. Valve cover's been powder coated and gunmetal by my friend Ryan at 6651 Custom, so that looks great. And then we did the best we could at trying to manage Jeep's mess. And so this is what I mean by Jeep's mess. Jeep is notorious, especially older Jeeps, at cranking out vehicles for as low cost as they could have and for them to work and be reliable. And so across all trim levels in Jeeps, there was one wiring harness. And if you didn't have a certain option, it didn't get canceled in the wiring harness. The wiring harness just got put in. And so you'll find connectors and vacuum lines and all sorts of stuff that were never used, and they would just dead end. And so we did our best to manage that as best we could, re-loom a bunch of Jeep's terrible loom and get it all at least routed together as best as we could. And so I think this engine bay looks great for an XJ or an MJ engine bay. However, it's still not the prettiest. There's a lot of wiring, there's a lot of cable management, but let's still talk about what's going on here. So we've got a rebuild engine, we've got a new radiator, new condenser for the air conditioning. We added vintage air AC, so we've got a new AC compressor as well. We did all new heater hoses, all new radiator hoses, new filters, new everything, new battery. And so we did do a ton of work under here to make this all work together and fit together nicely. It is a pretty stuffed engine bay. I know people LS swap these, and I'm thinking there would be no space if you LS swap this for an AC compressor. So if you get on Facebook Marketplace, a lot of times you'll see LS swapped XJs, and none of them ever have AC, and I think it's because they're just pretty tight engine bays and it'd be pretty difficult to make it fit. However, nothing's impossible. But again, did our best in here. We mounted for our winch. Part of mounting the winch and making it hide behind this bumper was the solenoid box had to come off of the winch and get hidden under the engine bay. So we mounted that up in the engine bay, shortened up all of our wires, and made that all work. But that's pretty much it under the hood. It's pretty clean under, or as clean as we could get it. We're stoked about it. It runs like an absolute top. Let's hop in and show you the interior, where we also spent just an absolute insane amount of time. All right, so on the interior, we got this sweet blue interior, which I love. I love blue and red interiors from the 80s. I never want like an 80s truck with tan interior. I think it's so boring. Give me the blue or give me the red. So this is the nice blue interior, super clean. And a lot of this we didn't redo. Like this is the original dash, all the original plastics, original door panels as well. And if you can get good original upholstery, it will last longer. And so as long as it's not falling off the door, even if it's a little faded, like you'll see on these door panels, it's a little faded. There's a little bit of fading in the plastic, but it's not cracked. So again, it's always better just to keep your original plastics. Try not to crack it as you're taking it apart and putting it back together. But we did a ton of work on this interior. We've got a factory steering wheel. This is the factory bench seat. It's super comfortable, and it was in such good shape with no tears that we were like, we got to keep this thing. So it's comfortable, it's nice, doesn't smell like old man. The only thing I guess new in the interior here is we've got new shift boots, brand new carpet. We laid the carpet ourselves at the shop, and then we had our friends at Ian's Auto Upholstery reupholster the headliner and the visors as well. So there's no upholstery there, as that was like the only thing when we bought this truck that the headliner was just sagging. So that's it. The modifications that we did in here, obviously our vintage air conditioning here. So that was a labor of love getting vintage air fit in here. We're running a Gen 2 mini system, so not their biggest system, but again, this is a small truck. It doesn't require a lot of air movement to cool this cab down. It blows plenty hard and will cool this cab down just instantly. My favorite part of the whole whole entire truck when talking about the air conditioning has to be the crotch cooler 3000 down here below the steering wheel. We made sure we kept this vent operational, and it will cool you off between the legs. And let me tell you why that's a good option in a classic truck. Let's say you're driving this thing, it's a hot day, you show up and you got on a date, or you got a business meeting, or you got something to do, and you got sweaty crotch. You're not gonna feel confident getting out of your truck. But with this truck, you're gonna show up, you're gonna be cool between your legs, and you're gonna be calm and cool and collected when you get out. Get it? Collected, cool between the legs. When you get out for whatever you got to do, you're gonna have all the confidence in the world. So not only is it gonna keep you cool, it's gonna keep you confident. That was a joke, guys, but still.
You just make a joke. Good one.
We got our vintage air system. There was a factory vent here, but that would have came with the factory molded piece from the factory heater box, so that went away. And so instead of just leaving a dead vent, we 3D printed up a cubby here for your phone. So maybe not a massive mini tablet phone would fit, but any normal size phone is going to fit in there nice and neat. You've got your retro sound Bluetooth radio. This is their Grand Prix model, which looks great in these old school Jeeps, in these 80s and 90s vehicles. It's very retro, so it's great. We did a bang up job on the audio system in this truck. It sounds insane. So what we're rolling with audio is we've got 5¼ inch speakers in the doors, 4x6s behind the seat, an 8-inch subwoofer behind the seat, and then we've got a small amplifier under the dash powering all the speakers, and it sounds so good. It's so much sound for this little cab that it's probably the best sounding sound system in any giveaway truck that we've done so far. So it sounds just perfect. Other things that we've got here is a little hideaway USB port for the retro sound. We've got our factory gauges. They work perfect. This truck's showing 178,000 miles on the ticker, and I feel like that it doesn't look or feel like it's got 178,000, but that's still pretty low mileage for these trucks that a lot of people will push to 500 or 750,000 miles in these bad boys. So it's got plenty of life left. Here we've got our light switch for our KCs in the front, and we've got our winch control for the winch up front as well. And so you can be in here, hook up to something, and stay in your truck and use your winch here just perfectly fine. For transmission, this is a 5-speed manual transmission with overdrive. This is the Peugeot, whatever, the French car maker, Peugeot I think is what they're called. This is their 5-speed, which is not the most desirable 5-speed. I think the Ison is what replaced this, and this is a little bit more desirable, but this trans is great. It doesn't grind between any gears. All the synchros are good. It shifts perfectly fine. It's got quick gear changes as well, so that's great. Got your 4-wheel drive shifter down here as well. This is the factory bucket, and it's in perfect condition as well. This is great. Put some change or your phone down there, so it all works out great. Again, all our trim, all of our plastic, our A-pillar, B-pillar trim, it's all there, it's all clean, and it all works out great. So love the interior in this thing. It's very comfortable, and whoever wins it is gonna love being in it. So with that being said, let's start this bad boy up and let's go for a drive. Let me show you how easy it is to start. It starts up super fast. For those who know these Jeeps, by the way, this is a Renix system. Renix was a rudimentary fuel injection system. So this truck, when we rebuilt the 4.0, we put in a light cam, a stage 1 cam in there. The Renix systems don't like heavy cams. They can't adjust for enough. However, in the iteration that we have going on here, everything that we've done to this truck, the Renix system makes it run perfectly like a top, just like any modern car. It runs really, really, really well. So I know the Renix system gets a lot of hate because you can't do a lot to them. They don't accept a lot of aftermarket adjustments to them. However, they do run very well in like this is now. So you can swap out the Renixes to a modern system, but you have to swap everything from the intake manifold to everything. And this truck is a California smog compliant truck, and it will pass smog in California. So anybody who wants to participate in this can participate. Doesn't matter what state you're in, you'll pass smog and be just fine. So we didn't want to go tampering with that and ruin your ability to pass smog. So with that being said, let's start this bad boy so you can hear it. Just like that. She cranks over, she fires, and she runs just like an absolute top. So yeah, let's go drive it. Show you what she's like. This truck is absolutely a joy to drive, I have to say. It's a blast to drive. Again, kind of like when we did our Ranger giveaway, like it's fun to drive something that's kind of smaller, but this thing's awesome, steers so good. That's the first thing I want to talk about is we did a ton of work to this thing in the steering and suspension department. So besides just like the 1-ton steering and the long arm kit that we did, which the long arm kit and that 1-ton steering make this thing super stable and super great. However, we did a lot more than just that. We did all new ball joints and U-joints and just everything we could do in the steering and suspension department. So, and it shows because it's tight. Like you can change lanes easy. There's no death wobble. Like you're good. It steers phenomenally. So that's great. The little 4.0, the little peppy 4.0, it's good. It's if you know Jeeps, you know they're not by any way, shape, or form speed demons. But again, this brand new engine runs like an absolute top. It's got passing power, but you know, you're not going to go blow the doors off anybody, but it has enough power absolutely to cruise on the freeway and be plenty comfortable. So the cabin's super quiet in here as we're cruising like 45, 50 miles an hour. Super quiet, like we can talk at a normal volume, and it's not, you know, there's not a ton of wind noise or anything like that. Like everything's sealed up really nice and tight, so that's good as well. We've got that exhaust back there. We did all new exhaust from the manifold back, and so from the manifold down to the cat is all stock exhaust. And then we did from the cat back, we did a Banks Power cat back exhaust for an XJ for a Cherokee. But the only difference is that the Comanche exhaust would have been 18 inches longer, so we just got another piece of stainless steel tubing from O'Reilly's, 2.5-inch tubing, and extended it 18 inches, and it worked out perfect. So all the hangers and everything else lined up perfectly great. So it's super easy. So if you have a Comanche and you want to do some nice exhaust, you can do Cherokee exhaust just with an extension. So it's just a fun fact to know. But again, it sounds nice, but in here it's plenty quiet and does just fine. This little 5-speed manual is probably the only area on the truck that we didn't touch. We did a new transmission mount, and that's all built into the long arm kit, but the transmission itself we didn't rebuild. We didn't put a new clutch in, but the clutch is perfect, super easy to operate. Your left leg is not going to be tired. You can pretty much operate this clutch with just your ankle. So the clutch is super, super, super great and grabs quickly. I know in some manual transmissions you have like a really springy clutch, and this is not the case here. It is very consistent, the clutch feel all the way down through the pedal, so that's great. And the transmission is great. The throws are short, so it's not like you're driving like an NV4500 like behind a diesel, and your throws are from here all the way up and all the way back. Like this feels more like a car transmission, and so it's fun to drive, it's fun to shift and row through the gears. First gear is not a granny, and so you can actually use first gear, which is pretty sweet too, to like actually be able to start in first and have 5 usable gears. But none of the gears grind. All of the synchros are good in all 5 gears. So when we drove it, when we first bought it, and it was like, hey, nothing's grinded, so leave it alone. And so the transmission is great, shifts great, it's smooth, it's quiet, and so I love it. It is a very fun 5-speed to have. And then 5th gear is overdrive, but when you're cruising around 45, 50 miles an hour, you're still in 4th gear. This has rather low or rather high gearing. I think this is geared to, we'll put it in the comments. I forget what gear ratio is in this thing, but it's pretty low. However, it's geared pretty low, but with the 31-inch tires that are on it, it is pretty nice actually. It rides pretty good. We were nervous to go up to 33s, because 33s on this, you'd be cruising like 95 miles an hour at 2,000 RPM. The RPMs are spot on. You're shifting at a good spot, you're right in the power band, and then you're cruising comfortably in 4th gear on surface streets, and then you get on the freeway and you can use your 5th gear properly. So that's all good as well. But again, steering, suspension, everything, this thing is tight. I love driving it. It's actually really fun, really comfortable. The bench seat's comfy too. And then another thing that we always do on these trucks, we always do new seat belts. But we do these new seat belts here. These are from Retro Belt. Super nice. There's nothing worse than getting into an old truck and you have crunchy, old, nasty seat belts. So these are super nice, and they're soft and brand new, and they're blue, so they match the rest of the truck. Because I love the blue interior. I just said that, but I love the blue interior. The bench seat's comfortable though. It's a good seating position. You sit, and this is something that I feel like Jeep always did well. They did this well in their J10 pickup trucks as well. Their full-size Jeeps do this as well. But you sit far back in the cab where your legs are extended really nice, and then the steering wheel comes out at you. So it's almost, your seating position is almost like a car and less like a truck, whereas a truck you're kind of sitting up high and tall. So I do like that. It gives you I guess a sportier feel. It is much more comfortable to drive long distances in. Again, we've got our radio here. I don't want to, you won't be able to tell through the camera, but the radio does sound phenomenal. It's off right now, but it works and it does great. All of our gauges work, which is great. You need to know that you have accurate gauges, but fuel, tack, everything else is there, and that's all good. So that's really nice. Again, we've got our winch switches here, our light bar switches, so that's all good. And again, this thing's just an absolute peach to drive. This is on the streets, just driving it like a little daily, but the long arm kit makes it steer great. The rear leaf springs are rather soft, which is great for daily driving. And if you're gonna go pick up some parts, it's great to be a part runner. If you're gonna use this thing as a work truck, which I don't think whoever wins this is gonna take a truck this nice and turn it into a work truck, but if this was a work truck, you know, you'd maybe want some stiffer rear springs. But for off-roading, this thing soaks up bumps, great for a truck still on leaf springs in the rear. The little trail that we take to go up and cruise up to where we're taking photos earlier, there's some pretty deep ruts in that road, like 18-inch deep ruts, and this thing just soaks it up perfectly fine and does that little trail super, super easy. So off-road, it's great. This thing is gonna be a blast if you win this thing, and you can take it out and do some trails with your friends, drive it to work, little parts runner, take it to Home Depot. It's gonna do it all. and it really is just a blast to drive. All right, well, with that, drive was excellent. Love this thing. It's a blast to drive. But with that, this is the end of this video. Thanks for watching this walk around. I know there was a ton of information in this video. There's probably more than I left out. But again, if you like this bad boy, you want to win it, go check it out, hodsandmotors.com, where every $5 you spend is one automatic entry in to win this bad boy. This giveaway closes March 26th at midnight, so you got to get in before then for your entries to count. But if you're seeing this video later than March 26th, check us out anyway, see what else we're giving away, and you might just be taking home something just as bad as this bad boy is right here. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe to us here on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.